My best friend and I both have girlfriends. The four of us often hang out together. But that day, while delivering food, I accidentally uncovered a secret. It turned out that among the four of us, two were secretly wealthy heirs. One was my best friend, Lucas. His real identity? The top young heir of Europe. Lucas was a hopeless romantic, and he transferred to our university, just so he wouldn't have to leave his girlfriend, Olivia. The other was none other than my girlfriend, Sophia. Her true identity? The most famous little princess of Europe. But what shocked me even more was this. From the very beginning, Sophia only had eyes for my best friend. She agreed to be with me just because Lucas liked a poor girl. Out of jealousy, Sophia pretended to be poor to get closer to me. Maybe it was because I was so worthless. Only now did I truly realize that I was nothing more than a clown in this rich kid drama. Perhaps it was the heartbreak from discovering the truth. Or maybe it was the exhaustion from juggling 3 part-time jobs. Either way, as soon as I got home, I came down with a high fever that wouldn't break. In my delirium, I had a dream. In that dream, moments of pure, sweet love alternated with nightmares of betrayal. They kept repeating, crushing my mind. For 3 days, I sat weakly in my cheap rented room, waiting for Sophia to return, but she never did. When my fever finally subsided, I picked up my phone and absent-mindedly scrolled through social media. I stumbled upon a post by my best friend. Though the photo wasn't clear, I could still recognize Sophia's hand. She was feeding Lucas soup. At that moment, my heart froze. I let out a bitter laugh and made a decision. I wouldn't continue playing along in this twisted fairy tale anymore. I wanted to fight for my own life and future. Without hesitation, I picked up the phone and called my university professor. Professor Alexander, I want to join the fiction project. On the other end of the line, he sounded genuinely surprised. James, didn't you turn this down last time because of your girlfriend? Why the sudden change of heart? This is a highly confidential project. Once you join, you'll be isolated for 5 years, with no communication allowed with the outside world. You need to think this through carefully. I stayed silent. I'd already thought it through before making the call, so my tone was resolute. Seeing how determined I was, Professor Alexander sighed in relief. If you've thought it through, then come to campus to sign the agreement when you can. The project starts in 2 weeks. Someone will come to pick you up when the time comes. Also, I noticed you and your girlfriend seem close, so make sure to explain this to her. The project begins in 15 days. I glanced down at the silver ring on my finger, my mind a whirlwind of emotions. No need, I've already decided to break up with her. As soon as I finished speaking, I heard the door click open. Sophia walked in. Who are you talking to? I glanced at her briefly, then quickly hung up. It's nothing. I was just talking to my roommate about our post-graduation plans. Sophia didn't press further. Instead, she smiled and walked over to me, pulling something out of her pocket. For all your hard work this past month, I finally bought you a gift. James, do you like it? I remained expressionless, only sparing a glance at the bracelet, my tone indifferent. I like it. My unusually cold reaction caught Sophia off guard. After all, in the past, whenever she gave me something, I would immediately accept it, then hug her tightly, overwhelmed with emotion. She carefully studied my face. You don't like it? I shook my head. I like it, it's just too expensive. Don't spend so much money in the future. Didn't we agree that after graduation, we'd save up to buy a house and get married? So you're worried about me spending recklessly? Sophia couldn't help but chuckle softly, then gently embraced me. It's fine. If I need to, I'll just take on a few more part-time jobs. Whatever other people's boyfriends have, my James deserves to have too. I forced a smile but said nothing. I'm going to wash my face. After the door closed behind me, I stood in front of the mirror and noticed Sophia's phone vibrating on the sink. I picked it up and unlocked it. immediately seeing a familiar profile picture with a new message. Sophia, thank you for the latest bracelet today. I really like it. The lighting in the photo was dim, but it couldn't hide the dazzling sparkle of the diamond. It was almost laughable to think about the cheap $2.99 bracelet. Free shipping included, sitting abandoned on the table. I let out a faint, bitter laugh. The next morning, I threw everything into the trash. The water bottle, the shirts, the keychains, the phone cases. All of these were things I had painstakingly picked out as matching items. Things I once treasured deeply. Sophia, woken by the noise, yawned and asked, "They're still in good condition. Why are you throwing them away?" I replied indifferently, "They're old. I'll buy new ones later." I grabbed an excuse and left the apartment with a box of belongings. As I headed upstairs, my landlord's call came through. "James, why are you suddenly returning the room? Did you and your girlfriend have a fight? She works so hard for you, morning till night. Even in the freezing winter, she walks miles just to buy you hot chestnuts. A girl like that, don't be foolish and do something reckless." Hearing the landlord's earnest advice, I could only manage a bitter smile. Before I knew the truth, I never doubted Sophia's love for me. Her kindness was always on full display, something anyone could see, and I was genuinely moved by it. So when I found out the truth, it hit me hard. In this relationship, I had given my heart, sincere and pure, only for it to become a symbol of my own worthlessness. I shook my head bitterly. "Please help me with the paperwork to return the room." When I went back inside, I saw Sophia changing clothes. Just as I reached out to close the door, Lucas's call came through. Within seconds, his familiar voice echoed in the cramped room. "James, are you busy today? Can you come over? I just had a fight with Olivia." Sophia, hearing Lucas's voice from the phone, stopped what she was doing. Through the mirror, I saw her face, extremely tense and visibly anxious. "You wait a moment," I started. "I still have work this afternoon." But before I could finish, Sophia cut me off. "What's there to wait for? Let's go now." A fight that big must have left Lucas in a terrible state. "Let me come with you." I stared at her, asking, "Don't you have a shift at the cafe?" Sophia hesitated for a second, caught off guard, then quickly made up an excuse about having the day off. She dragged me onto the small electric scooter and sped off. Her urgency was palpable, almost frantic, thinking back to the last time Lucas and Olivia had a fight, and how she insisted I rush over to comfort him. I couldn't help but feel suspicious of her intentions. I'd questioned her motives before, subtly probed even. But every time, Sophia would smooth things over effortlessly. "What are you thinking? Isn't Lucas your best friend? I love you. So naturally, I care about your friends too. I just don't want his breakup to affect your mood. So I'm rushing like this." Her words were so sweet, so seamless, it left no room for doubt. Looking back now, I realize how naive I truly was. The small, dimly lit, cluttered apartment told its own story. Just one glance revealed that the two of them had just been through a massive argument, or worse. Lucas sat slumped on the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. My friend may have everything going for him, but he's always been a crier. Seeing him sitting there on the cold floor, his tears streaming down in despair, the worry on Sophia's face was impossible to miss. She rushed forward, pulling him up, kneeling halfway on the ground, gently wiping his tears with a tissue. "It's okay. Stop crying. Boys who cry aren't as handsome. You know." Years of friendship meant they knew each other well. After her words, Lucas immediately stopped crying. I stood by the door, silently watching everything unfold. Once he calmed down, I asked, "What did you two fight about this time?" At the mention of it, Lucas's anger flared up instantly. "I just went camping. Bought a slightly expensive watch. And she got mad at me for it." I glanced at the logo on the bag discarded on the floor, and my attempt at advice caught in my throat. I'd always thought Lucas came from a background similar to mine. Just someone who spent money more freely. So, I treated him with nothing but kindness. But now I understood. This extravagant spending was just second nature for a young heir. I didn't bother wasting words on such trivial matters. Instead, I stood coldly to the side, watching Sophia do everything in her power to comfort her childhood friend. Eventually, Lucas's mood stabilized, and he suggested the three of us go out to relax. Our destination? The largest amusement park in Europe. A place usually bustling with activity was eerily quiet today. Earlier, I'd overheard Sophia secretly making a call, requesting the park be closed for the day for cleanup. So, I wasn't surprised. I simply followed quietly behind them. As I watched Sophia meticulously prepare everything, Lucas's smile grew brighter and brighter. He looked like a little prince, receiving all the attention in the world. He hugged Sophia tightly, shouting out his frustrations, releasing every ounce of pent-up emotion. All day, Sophia didn't even spare me a single glance, treating me like I was invisible. As night fell, the amusement park began its fireworks display. Vivid bursts of color bloomed in the sky like countless shooting stars, illuminating the entire night. Lucas's bad mood vanished completely. Fireworks aren't just for festivals? Why are they here today? His voice was filled with excitement, unable to hide his surprise. Sophia smiled gently at him. I knew this was her special arrangement. While buying ice cream earlier, she'd been texting someone, surely to organize this very fireworks show. But Lucas didn't stay to watch it all. Midway through, he received a call from Olivia. Whatever she said on the other end made his face light up instantly. Brushing aside Sophia's attempts to stop him, he left resolutely, watching his figure disappear into the distance. The girl who had been so cheerful all day suddenly seemed like burnt-out fireworks, completely deflated. It was clear she was frustrated, her efforts interrupted. In a flash of anger, she kicked over the unlit fireworks. When she turned back, her eyes, full of longing, accidentally met my indifferent gaze. In that moment, she seemed to remember I existed. Quickly regaining her composure, she rushed over and hugged me tightly. James, weren't the fireworks beautiful? I looked up at the dazzling sky and muttered a faint, yeah. Then pushed her away. Sophia froze, thinking I'd figured something out, and panicked, trying to explain. Today, but I didn't give her the chance. I didn't want to hear another one of her perfect excuses. Pretending not to care, I crossed my arms and spoke in a detached tone. I heard people say fireworks are like shooting stars, that they can make dreams come true. Why don't we make a wish? Sophia immediately seized the suggestion as a perfect escape. She clasped her hands together, murmuring a prayer. I wish James and I will stay together forever. After graduation, once we've saved enough, we'll get married. I'd heard her say this countless times before. In the past, every time she said it, it moved me to tears. But this time, my heart didn't stir even a little. I closed my eyes and silently made my own wish. I wished that after leaving Sophia, we would never meet again. When I opened my eyes, my gaze accidentally met hers. James, what did you wish for? Why won't you tell me? I turned away, smiling faintly. If I say it out loud, the wish won't come true. After rushing to campus to sign the agreement, I went to my part-time job to hand in my resignation. The manager agreed but asked me to finish today's shift. All morning, I was busy delivering 10 food orders. The scorching sun left me dizzy and disoriented. The first order of the afternoon was at a villa in the upscale neighborhood. I took off my suffocatingly hot helmet, picked up the nearly 10-pound bag of food, and headed up to knock on the door. A few minutes later, a familiar voice rang out. He's here. Hearing it, I looked up and met her gaze. Seeing me, Sophia's eyes widened in shock. A whirlwind of emotions flashed across her face. Surprise, panic, tension. What are you doing here? Contrary to her flustered state, I remained calm and took the initiative to ask first. But in the end, all I got from her was another lie. It's a friend's birthday. They invited me here. I took a few steps back, glancing at the opulent mansion before me. Since when did you befriend someone this rich? Sophia didn't answer. Instead, she changed the subject. Why are you delivering food? It's so hot today, it must be exhausting. I looked down at my sunburnt arms and replied flatly. Your birthday is next month. And didn't you say you wanted a new phone? So I decided to save up to surprise you. That had been my original thought. But now, I realized just how foolish I'd been. At my words, a flicker of guilt passed through her eyes. She followed my gaze and noticed the bruises on my sunburnt arms. Her expression shifted, revealing something unfamiliar. This pampered young lady. Had she ever encountered a man willing to endure the scorching sun? Delivering food just to buy her a gift? Sophia opened her mouth as if to say something. But some of her friends, seeing she hadn't come in yet, called out loudly. Sophia, why aren't you coming in? As soon as they saw me, their faces briefly registered surprise. Then they quickly tried to cover it up. Mr. Henry invited us to his birthday party. He sent you out to pick up the food. Why did it take so long? Is this your boyfriend? Come in and have a drink. With that, they laughed and pulled me inside. I glanced around, noticing familiar things. The perfume in the display cabinet. The stuffed animals on the sofa. The crystalware in the glass case. All of them had appeared in Lucas's social media posts. I'd always wondered. Lucas's family wasn't wealthy. So how could he afford such expensive gifts? And at a glance, it was obvious these were matching items. My eyes landed on a small dog. The snow-white pup ran over, wagging its tail. But what caught my attention most was the scarf around its neck. A bow-tied scarf. Blue with a pattern and embroidered with the LV logo. Wasn't this the commemorative gift I'd given Sophia for our 2-year anniversary? To buy it, I'd worked myself to exhaustion. Sleeping only 3 hours a day. For the first time in my life, I'd mustered the courage to walk into a luxury store with my hard-earned money. Never would I have imagined that she not only didn't cherish it, but also treated it so indifferently, tying it around a dog's neck. My nails dug into my palms. A wave of suppressed anger rising within me. Ever since I'd stepped in, Sophia had been secretly watching me, afraid I'd discover something. Just then, the drunken group loudly demanded we play a game. She hurriedly pulled me into it, trying to distract me. But as soon as we sat down, her phone rang. At first, she didn't want to answer. But when she saw the name on the screen, she hesitated for a moment, then stood up and walked out to the balcony. As her figure disappeared, the game began. All right, let's play. I have. You don't. Who doesn't have it? Fold your finger. I just did yoga with 3 friends. If you didn't, fold your finger. I just bought the latest Maserati sports car model. If you didn't, fold your finger. Everything this group of rich kids mentioned, I didn't have. That world had never been mine. By halfway through the round, I'd folded all 10 fingers. The group, who had been watching me with malicious intent, grew excited. We've got our first loser. Time for punishment. The punishment is lying on the floor and racing against the dog. If you lose, there'll be another punishment. I looked up, unable to believe my ears. I refused to accept this degrading punishment. Seeing my refusal, the spoiled brats burst into mocking laughter. Scared? He's probably afraid of losing to a dog. How embarrassing. The rules were set long ago. You can't just back out because you don't like them. Only now did I understand, they'd done this on purpose. Perhaps they thought Sophia had hidden her identity, pretending to be with me for 2 years, and wanted to avenge her. Realizing their ill intentions, I stood up to leave. But someone beside me suddenly shoved me hard, causing me to fall to the ground. My head hitting the corner of a table, blood streaming down. Seeing the blood, the group became thrilled, quickly placing the dog beside me. The dog barked incessantly. Come on, everyone, watch the race between man and dog. Ready, go? Just then, the door burst open, and an angry voice roared. What do you think you're doing? At the sound of that voice, The entire hall fell silent. Everyone avoided eye contact, pretending to be uninvolved. It's just a little game. Nothing serious. A few people stepped forward, trying to smooth things over. Sophia didn't even glance at them. She came over, grabbed my hand, and led me outside. She hailed a taxi by the road and told the driver to take us to the hospital. Throughout the ride, she used a handkerchief to wipe the wound on my forehead, her face full of worry, repeatedly apologizing. "I'm sorry, James. I shouldn't have left you alone." I wasn't sure if what had happened earlier was related to her, or whether it was an accident or a setup. But whether intentional or not, everything I endured today had something to do with her. So I didn't want to accept her apology. I held back my emotions and asked in a detached tone, "Sophia, you angered your wealthy friends for my sake. Aren't you afraid they'll retaliate?" As she saw my reddened eyes, Sophia looked extremely flustered, perhaps thinking I was worried about her. So she seemed a little guilty. "Don't worry, you're the only one that matters to me." If I hadn't already known the truth, I would have definitely been deceived by her act. But now I know everything she says. Her love for me, it's all a lie. I took a deep breath and stayed silent. I noticed her phone vibrating several times. She glanced at it, hesitated for a few seconds, then said awkwardly, "James, my teacher wants me to come to school. Can you go to the hospital on your own?" I stared at her for a long while, then nodded, bitterly mocking myself. The taxi stopped by the roadside, watching her disappear into the crowd. I absent-mindedly recalled the messages I'd seen earlier. "Sophia, I want to break up with Olivia. Where are you? I'll come right away." After finishing treatment at the hospital, I looked at my old phone. Then without hesitation, went and bought a brand new iPhone 17. Spending quite a bit of money. This was 1/10 of the savings I had set aside to buy a house. But now, I didn't care about saving anymore. When I got back to my room, I logged into my account, and by chance, scrolled past a live video Sophia had just shared. Before, with my old phone, I couldn't hear live audio clearly. But now, with just a tap, everything was crystal clear. "Sophia, it's just a proposal ceremony. Why are you making such a big deal out of it?" My finger froze. Lucas had only just said he wanted to break up with Olivia. And already Sophia was preparing for the proposal. Well, so be it. I looked up at the red circle marked on the calendar. Only 7 days left until I leave, just 7 final days. In the following days, Sophia used the excuse of working extra shifts to avoid coming home. I knew she was busy preparing for the proposal, while I was busy packing. So I didn't bother exposing her. Until late one night, Sophia returned, drunk. In a daze. She stumbled in, hugged me tightly, and kept whispering. Her eyes were red, her voice mumbling. "Every rose was hand-picked by me. The ring was custom-made for you. All my friends are blessing us. They hope we can stay together." But why, in the end? Did I only receive an apology? Why is this happening? Clearly, I was the one who came first. The one who's been with you for over a decade. What's so great about that girl? Why do you love her so much? Sophia sobbed uncontrollably. Looking at her desperate expression, I felt no pity. I knew she had mistaken me for Lucas. From her words, I pieced together what must have happened. That day, I ignored Sophia as she cried in her drunken state, quietly turned off the lights, and went to sleep. In the days that followed, Lucas continuously posted videos and photos of their love on social media. Sophia no longer paid attention to anything unusual about me. She spent her days locked indoors, spacing out and dozing off. I simply observed her silently, as I was incredibly busy during this time. With only 3 days left, I returned home once to inform my family about my participation in the secret research project. The next day, I met up with friends to say my goodbyes. On the final day, Lucas called and invited Sophia and me for a lakeside stroll. She dragged me along. When we arrived at the lake and saw Olivia walking beside Lucas, Sophia's face immediately turned cold. After boarding the boat, I found a spot to sit and enjoy the misty scenery. Even though Sophia sat next to me, her gaze kept drifting toward Lucas. As the boat reached the middle of the lake, it suddenly began pouring rain. A fierce wind swept in, rocking the small boat violently. Thunder roared, and thick fog enveloped us. Not long after, the strong winds and torrential rain capsized the boat. None of us were wearing life jackets, and we all fell into the water. Neither Lucas nor I knew how to swim. Driven by the will to survive, we struggled desperately, clinging to the edge of the overturned boat. Olivia was the first to react, frantically swimming toward the shore, not caring about anyone else. But Sophia, her eyes were only for Lucas. She completely ignored me, swimming straight to him without hesitation, and held him tightly. The icy rain lashed against my face, my body losing heat and strength rapidly. My teeth chattered uncontrollably, my face pale. I stared blankly at the two figures growing farther away, feeling my consciousness gradually fade. The waves battered me relentlessly. And finally, I let go, my body sinking slowly. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself lying in a hospital bed. A nurse noticed I was awake and hurried over to check on me. "It's okay. The security guards brought you here, but they've already left. You should call your family to handle the discharge procedures." Hearing this, I realized I had been saved by the security guards at the lake. I scanned the empty room, then checked my phone. No calls, no messages. Remembering the last image before I lost consciousness, I simply smiled quietly. Then, dragging my weakened body, I went to complete the discharge procedures. But after taking only a few steps, I heard a familiar voice from the neighboring room. I peeked inside. Sophia. She was sitting beside Lucas's hospital bed, crying bitterly. "This time, you absolutely must break up with Olivia. She didn't even try to save you, even though she knows you can't swim. If I hadn't saved you, you might have drowned in the lake. Sophia, I know you've liked me for years, and that you transferred schools for me, pretended to date James for me. I was foolish before, but now I've awakened. Sophia, do you want to be with me?" Unexpectedly, faced with the scene she had long dreamed of, Sophia showed no trace of excitement. Immediately, I smirked. Perhaps happiness came too suddenly, and she hadn't had time to process it yet. I didn't have the patience to wait for their happy ending, so I turned and walked downstairs. After completing the discharge procedures, a timely text from my landlord reminded me it was time to vacate the room. I glanced at the clock. It was only 1 p.m. Still plenty of time. I hailed a taxi and headed back to my place. All that belonged to me in this room fit neatly into a single suitcase. There was also a gift box I had packed earlier, containing every single gift Sophia had given me over the past 2 years. A $5 bracelet, a 7-cent keychain, a $10 book. The total value of the box didn't exceed $50. Perhaps in Sophia's eyes, I was a cheap man, so I only deserved gifts like these. I gave a self-mocking smile, then sealed the box and sent it to the courier station, addressed to the villa from that day. After finishing all of this, I returned to the rented room and transferred an extra month's rent to the landlord. Perhaps by the time Sophia comes back, everything related to me in this room will be long gone. At that moment, my phone buzzed with over 10 unread messages, all from Sophia. I didn't bother looking at them or reading a single one. I simply deleted all contact information tied to her. The next second, Professor Alexander called. "James, it's time to go. We're waiting for you downstairs." Without hesitation, I grabbed my suitcase and left the place I once called home. This shabby little rental, I would never return. On Sophia's end, after the housekeeper informed her of a package delivery and asked if she wanted to sign for it, Sophia couldn't recall buying anything recently, so she absent-mindedly agreed. After all, trivial matters like this had never been something she cared about. Later, Lucas woke up feeling hungry. So the two of them quickly headed to a Michelin-starred restaurant for dinner. Throughout the meal, Sophia frequently found herself distracted, glancing at her phone. Lucas soon noticed her unease and asked, "Is something important on your mind?" Sophia shook her head. She didn't want Lucas to see the turmoil brewing inside her. At one point, Sophia had viewed Lucas as her treasure, thinking that the moment he finally accepted her love, she would burst into tears of joy. But now that the moment had arrived, she felt conflicted, more anxious than anything else. Sophia feared that if she truly agreed to be with Lucas, it would mean James would find out the truth, and their relationship would come to an irreversible end. She couldn't bear to imagine how James might react upon learning everything. For 2 years, James had been nothing but sincere, always giving her the best he could. That was why she hadn't immediately agreed to Lucas's proposal. Lucas didn't push her, giving her a week to sort things out. After dinner, Sophia took Lucas home. On the way, Lucas kept chatting non-stop, while Sophia remained silent the entire time, her thoughts consumed by James and everything that had happened today. Why isn't he answering his phone? Why isn't he replying to my messages? Seeing Sophia so disengaged, Lucas grew sulky. "You women are all the same. Once you have what you want, you don't know how to appreciate it." His accusatory tone reached Sophia's ears, but it made her feel oddly out of sync. Unable to hold back, she turned to look at him. It had been 14 years since they first met. Lucas was no longer the carefree, innocent young heir he used to be. He'd been through numerous relationships, and he knew exactly how to play with a woman's heart. "Lucas, why do you suddenly want to be with me this time?" Sophia asked casually, caught off guard by her question. Lucas immediately became flustered. To be honest, he had no idea how to answer. After all, in his mind, love was just another spice to liven up his otherwise boring life. Born into luxury, he had grown tired of the world's finest delicacies and seen every scenic view imaginable. Before turning 20, he'd had 2 relationships, both with wealthy heiresses, but neither brought him any sense of novelty. Then came Olivia, he couldn't resist, madly pursuing the poor girl. In the end, he found a new form of entertainment, toying with someone else's heart. Take James, for example, an ordinary guy who thought they were equals and always treated him kindly. Every time Lucas saw the look of pain or pity on James's face, he found it amusing. Everything around him, his entire life, was like a performance, and he fancied himself the director. From start to finish, James was merely a supporting character. And Olivia? She was just part of the game, a rich heir slumming it in poverty-stricken neighborhoods. Now, the show was over. The young master had grown bored and decided to quit playing. So naturally, he returned to his rightful match. Lucas fell silent for a long time, unable to come up with a perfect response for Sophia. In the end, he could only offer a mechanical explanation. "Because I've only just realized that somewhere along the way, I accidentally fell for you." Lucas mimicked the dramatic expressions of a TV drama protagonist, trying hard to convey regret and deep affection. Did he mean what he said? Was it real or fake? Did it matter? Of course not. After all, Sophia adored him so much. Whether it was real or fake no longer mattered. But unexpectedly, Sophia lowered her head, disappointment clear on her face, her eyes regaining a strange clarity. After dropping Lucas off, Sophia returned to the rental building. She didn't go upstairs but stood on the ground floor, silently gazing up at the darkened room where the lights had been turned off. Her mind began to wander. What is James doing right now? Is he taking a nap? Or is he still awake, scrolling through his phone? Or maybe he's thinking about what happened this morning. Tossing and turning, unable to sleep, she convinced herself that James must be furious, which was why he wasn't answering her calls. But what worried Sophia now wasn't whether James was angry or not. It was how to handle the tangled web between the 3 of them. Not knowing how to face James, she ended up standing downstairs for 2 hours straight, After much deliberation, she finally decided to head upstairs. But clearly, returning empty-handed wasn't a good option. So, she made a quick trip back to the villa, grabbing the bracelet she had purchased not long ago. Before leaving, she noticed a box sitting at the gate. A quick glance revealed handwriting that looked eerily familiar. But she couldn't quite place whose it was. It was nearly midnight, and Sophia didn't have time to dwell on such trivial matters. She figured she'd open it later when she had a moment. She went to the night market and bought a bunch of snacks James liked, then returned to the rented apartment. But for some reason, she fumbled endlessly with the lock and couldn't get the door open. The hallway light was broken, so visibility was poor. When she finally turned on her phone's flashlight, she realized the lock had been changed. Could he really be this angry? Sophia felt an inexplicable unease creeping over her. After steadying her emotions, she knocked lightly. "James, are you asleep? Can you open the door for me? It's freezing out here." In the past, whenever she'd lost her keys after coming home late, these exact words had always softened James's anger. But today, it seemed they no longer worked. Sophia knocked hundreds of times, but no one answered. At her wit's end, she had no choice but to seek out the landlord. The landlord was fast asleep, so the landlord's son came to the door instead. Upon hearing Sophia couldn't get in, he hurriedly fetched the spare key and handed it to her. After unlocking the door, Sophia slowly stepped inside. The room was pitch black, so silent she could hear her own heartbeat. She didn't turn on the lights, assuming James was sound asleep, and didn't want to wake him. She placed the food on the table, then went into the bedroom, leaving the necklace prominently on the bedside table. Once she was sure it was visible enough for him to see when he woke up, she moved to the wardrobe to grab her pajamas. That's when she froze. The wardrobe was completely empty. "What? Where are my clothes?" Frowning, she quickly turned on her phone's flashlight to inspect further. The next second, she instinctively turned to ask James, only to realize the bed had been stripped bare. Just the mattress remained, no blankets, no sign of him. Only then did she realize something was terribly wrong. Panicking, she flipped on the light switch. The sudden brightness illuminated the darkened room. The sight before her left Sophia utterly stunned. The wardrobe, bed, desk, all were completely empty. Even the small knick-knacks were gone. This rented apartment had seemingly reverted to its original state. And on the table, the dazzling diamond bracelet stood out even more jarringly. "James settled the remaining rent this afternoon and moved out. He gave me $100 to handle everything in the room. So I took the liberty of changing the lock. Didn't he tell you?" The landlord, groggy from being woken up, yawned through the explanation. To Sophia, these words hit like a thunderclap, her mind threatening to explode. As the landlord continued muttering, "These men these days are terrible. Leaving without even telling their girlfriends." Sophia felt as though a boulder had dropped onto her chest. Her breathing constricted, almost choking her. Struggling to steady herself, she asked urgently, "Why did he leave? Did he leave any messages or say where he was going?" The landlord was surprised. Sophia, his girlfriend, knew nothing about it. "Perhaps you did something to upset him? I cleaned the room but found no note. Where he went is his business, I wouldn't know." "How can you, as his girlfriend, not even know this much?" Sophia was frantic. Had something happened that caused James to leave without a word? She seemed to lose all composure, frantically pulling out her phone to call the police. Just as she turned to leave, the landlord called out, "Hey, hand over the key. Your lease is terminated. I need to rent this place out again." "No need. I'll rent this room for another year. I'll transfer the rent to you later." With that, Sophia rushed off. She wanted to return to campus, but the dorms were locked. So she called James's roommate instead. The voice on the other end replied groggily, "James hasn't been here all night." Frantically, Sophia searched everywhere for him, but there was no trace, as if he had vanished from the face of the earth. Her final stop was La Pastora Shrine. where the two of them had once written down their wishes. To save money, buy a house after graduation, and get married. She hadn't slept all night and was utterly exhausted. Looking up at the red prayer slips fluttering in the wind, she snapped a photo and tried to send it to James. But the message failed to send. Instead, a red dot appeared on the screen with the notification. Friend verification required. She had been deleted by James. Upon realizing this, Sophia's chaotic thoughts suddenly fell silent. She stared blankly at the screen, unable to believe what she saw. Almost everything related to James had been erased. Could it be? This time, he's truly furious and determined to let go? Sophia spiraled into despair, utterly defeated. Scenes from the past few days replayed in her mind, and she desperately tried to recall every detail, searching for why James had left. Was it because she'd been distracted lately? Too busy to spend time with him? Or because she'd forgotten his birthday? Or because she hadn't saved him? One hypothesis after another surfaced. And eventually, Sophia began to piece together the clues. The role of the perfect girlfriend she had proudly played had unknowingly revealed countless cracks. True, she had always been thoughtful. But whenever Lucas was involved, she would unconsciously neglect James. And he had noticed. That's right. Sophia muttered like someone losing their mind. She didn't dare think further, instead taking a deep breath to dispel the suffocating feeling. A prayer slip was blown by the wind, landing directly on her face. With great difficulty, she peeled it off. Work hard, save money, buy a house after graduation, and get married. Below the note were both her and James's signatures. The handwriting looked unmistakably familiar, exactly like the handwriting on the box at the gate. Realizing this, Sophia snapped awake and hurried off. The red slip of paper, meanwhile, was carried away by the wind into the mountains, never to be seen again. Like a prophecy, or perhaps a punishment. On the way back, Sophia vaguely guessed what the box might contain, but she vehemently denied it until the box was opened. As expected, she was utterly stunned. The last faint glimmer of hope had been extinguished, like a handful of cold ash. Over the past 2 years, every item she'd asked her nanny to buy for her had its price clearly marked. In total, it didn't even reach $50. $50, half a month's worth of James's food expenses, or the cost of a single drink she'd sip at the bar, or the pair of shoes James had bought her. Sophia recalled that day when James had insisted on dragging her to the mall, determined to buy her a pair of shoes. She wasn't used to wearing such cheap shoes, so she had stubbornly refused. But James, in all seriousness, explained that after graduation he would start his internship, and he wanted her to have a decent pair of shoes to wear. Though reluctant at first, she eventually got used to them after walking around for a while. It was similar to how she used to shop without ever looking at prices. But after being with James, she began tagging along to street food stalls, thinking together about how to save money or use discount coupons. During those days with him, a pampered young lady like her had truly experienced the various flavors of everyday life. It wasn't grand palaces or endless spending, but simple, humble living. She had once looked down on and despised the cramped, dim rented apartment. But at some point, that place had replaced the luxurious villa, becoming the home etched in her heart. Countless times, after drunken nights, she unconsciously gave the address of the old neighborhood. Or whenever Lucas rejected her, her first instinct was always to return there for comfort. On holidays in that tiny rented house, James would prepare a steaming pot of hot pot, waiting for her to come home and eat. At some point, she had been deeply moved by those small, sincere moments. Aside from the trinkets, James had left behind only a short note. I've spent 2 years playing this charade with you people. From now on, all this pain will end. Everything you gave me, I've returned to you. Goodbye, Sophia, I hope we never meet again. Just a few short lines. No accusations. No scolding. But they felt like a verdict, condemning her. No, this can't be real. This isn't real. She couldn't describe her feelings at this moment. Guilt, regret, or perhaps nostalgia. The small memories she had long forgotten now flooded back in slow motion, like a film reel. Her salty tears, mingled with complex emotions, dripped onto the note, smudging the handwriting, like the final signal of a ship lost at sea, waiting endlessly for a reply that never came. When the housekeeper led Lucas and his group of friends inside, they saw Sophia collapsed at the door. Her face pale, her nails digging so deeply into her palms that they bled. No one dared approach or disturb her. Only Lucas had the nerve. Frowning, he crouched down in front of her. "Sophia, what's wrong with you?" Sophia, like a soulless shell, glanced up at him. The confusion in her eyes seemed to fade slightly. Seeing that she didn't respond, Lucas frowned again, then casually glanced at the items scattered on the floor. They were all cheap trinkets. Could it be she intended to give these to me? He wondered briefly. The next second, Lucas picked up a bracelet and examined it. $2.99? Haha, this looks just like the real thing. And it's only $2.99? I doubt it even covers shipping costs. Hearing this, the others behind him no longer held back, inspecting each item in the box and mocking them. "Sophia, where did you get these things? Were you planning to give them to your poor boyfriend? With so many cheap items, you should send them in batches. He'll definitely cry tears of gratitude." The noisy scene before her pulled Sophia back to reality. Looking at their disdainful expressions and hearing their jeering remarks, it all felt like knives piercing deep into her heart. "Put them back where they were," Sophia growled, forcing out each word with difficulty. The atmosphere in the room instantly fell silent. Everyone could sense the anger in her tone, so they hurriedly returned everything to its original place. Only Lucas pretended not to hear, idly fiddling with the beads in his hand. Suddenly, the string in his hand snapped, and the charms clattered loudly to the floor. Sophia's eyes immediately darkened. "Get out, all of you, get out." The others quickly realized the situation, understanding that today wasn't suitable for hosting a party, so they obediently retreated to a corner. Only Lucas remained indifferent, sneering. "They're just cheap items. Why are you so angry over them?" Unfazed by Lucas's sulking attitude, Sophia knelt on the ground, using her bloodied hands to carefully pick up the scattered charms. Seeing her like this, Lucas naturally became furious. He snatched the box and threw the items directly into the trash. Sophia leaned against the wall as she stood up, her expression instantly becoming extremely grim. "Pick them out and return them to me." Lucas immediately froze. This was the first time the young lady had ever gotten angry with him. And over cheap items, no less. His face darkened, and with a powerful kick, he overturned the trash can. "These useless things belong in the trash, don't they?" Suppressing both her physical and emotional pain, Sophia ordered the housekeeper to escort these people out. But Lucas stubbornly refused to leave, fearlessly confronting her. "Sophia, what's with this attitude of yours? If you insist on throwing me out today, then even if you kneel and beg me in the future, I won't give you another chance." Seeing Sophia still unresponsive, the others quickly stepped in to mediate. "Come on, it was just a little joke. Sophia, haven't you always secretly liked Lucas? Why are you being so harsh with him now? That's right, we'll leave right away. We won't bother the two of you anymore. Sophia, hurry up and make amends with Lucas. He's not like James, your poor boyfriend. If you don't handle this well, you'll definitely regret it later." Hearing these words, Lucas's expression finally softened. He adjusted his mood and turned to look at Sophia. But as he met her icy glare, the anger that had just subsided flared up again. Lucas had never imagined that the lovesick young lady who once clung to him so desperately would now humiliate him in front of so many people. He grabbed a teacup from the table and angrily hurled it to the ground. "Sophia, what do you mean by this? Didn't you beg me to be with you? Do you think you're so important? Let me tell you something. I, Lucas, am not short of admirers. You're just one of them. Faced with these baseless accusations, Sophia didn't have the slightest intention of appeasing him. She clenched her fists tightly, coldly eyeing the smug figure before her, and spoke indifferently. Then go find them. Lucas's face immediately changed, his eyes widening in disbelief. Sophia, could it be that being with that poor guy for so long has messed with your mind? It's just a string of beads. For heaven's sake. Why are you getting so worked up over it? But now that I think about it, those cheap things really suit that poor guy. James had always treated Lucas well, this much Sophia could see clearly. Over the years, Lucas had been ostracized by classmates for his arrogant personality. But James was always the one to step in, defending him and smoothing things over. Once, after Lucas had a fight with his girlfriend late at night, James, despite having a fever, rushed over to comfort him. That's how sincerely James treated Lucas. But only now did Sophia realize. Lucas had never truly seen James as a friend. With every dismissive mention of that poor guy, he had never shown an ounce of respect. She had pursued Lucas for 14 years. And all he had done was bask in her devotion, without ever giving anything in return. Yes, Lucas was selfish, incapable of loving anyone but himself. Finally, the farce ended with Lucas's departure. All that remained was Sophia squatting on the floor, carefully wiping the dirt off the scattered beads with a tissue. Watching her like this, everyone around her was baffled. Sophia, what's wrong with you? Didn't you spend a long time chasing Lucas? That's right, aren't you going to try to make up with him? Could it be that you've become addicted to acting? To the point where you actually think you love James? Stop pretending. I think he's already developed feelings for you. Sophia knew these people meant well. But at this moment, their words felt like pouring oil on a fire, leaving her utterly exhausted. She no longer had the energy to respond. Silently, she picked up the box and went upstairs. She fell into a deep sleep. And when she woke up, it was already late at night. Seeing her phone on the bedside table continuously flashing, she hurriedly picked it up. Miss, regarding what you asked me to check, I've finished. In the maritime and air passenger lists from the past 3 days, there's no one named James. However, I did hear some insider news. James's academy has received a national-level classified program, and it seems they've already entered the startup phase. Thinking of James's renowned professor, Sophia quickly lowered her gaze, lost in thought. Even though James was just a college student, with his extraordinary talent, he had been highly valued by Professor Alexander, who even intended to personally mentor him further. If James had indeed joined this project, then it was only natural that she couldn't reach him. Thinking about this possibility, Sophia fell into an unprecedented state of chaos. After a long period of deep thought, she finally replied to her assistant, asking him to look further into the details of the project. Though she knew the chances were slim, she still wanted to try. Miss, the security level of this project is SSS. Whether we can get any information from it, I'm afraid it all depends on Lord's connections. Sophia sighed. After all, the assistant worked for her grandfather. His words made it clear. This investigation was completely impossible. The bedroom was pitch black, empty, and silent, as if it wanted to swallow her whole. Sophia opened her eyes wide, but saw nothing. Countless memories surged like a tide, drowning her until she could barely breathe. The freezing winter nights when they hugged each other for warmth, his sparkling eyes when she gave him gifts, or the gentle kiss he placed at the corner of her lips. Everything felt so vivid, as if it had happened just yesterday. But those moments were from so long ago. Back then, her mind had been consumed by the image of another man. Out of pride, she ignored his sincerity. Now, looking back with clarity, her past was nothing but a chaotic mess. She had used 9 parts pretense to gain 1 part of his genuine affection. That love had always been an illusion. The moment he walked away, Everything vanished, leaving behind only ashes. Graduation season, the season of farewells. Sophia returned to campus to pick up her certificate. Walking alone down the familiar paths. The playground, the gardens, the library, all evoked memories she didn't want to face. Every time she saw a group of female students in graduation gowns taking photos, or a couple holding hands, a thick mist seemed to settle over her heart. After all, Sophia had once been the campus belle. So many underclassmen knew who she was. Seeing her standing there lost in thought, like a soul wandering aimlessly, they couldn't help but whisper among themselves, "There's Sister Sophia, but where's her boyfriend? Why is she here alone? Did they break up?" A breakup isn't surprising. After graduation, Senior James, being as outstanding as he is, will definitely pursue a career in scientific research. He won't have time for romance. But didn't they promise to get married after graduation? There must be some hidden story. Each word felt like a sharp knife, stabbing deep into Sophia's soul. She lowered her gaze to hide her weary, red-rimmed eyes. After walking a few steps, she suddenly heard a familiar voice. "We've already broken up, so stop bothering me." It was Lucas. Olivia had him cornered, questioning him. Lucas, the guy who always enjoyed playing with people's emotions. To put it bluntly, he was a complete jerk. Handsome and charming, he always had countless women throwing themselves at him. Olivia was one of them. Her reason for being with Lucas was simply because of his family background. She wanted to climb the social ladder and rise like a phoenix. But she never expected that Lucas's family could be so ruthless. They even kicked out their only son. At first, Olivia still believed Lucas would return one day, so she sweetly tried to win him back. But as time passed, she gradually realized she wasn't gaining anything. And instead, her life was being turned upside down by this spoiled brat. Olivia slowly lost patience, starting to argue with Lucas more frequently. And the fights grew more intense over time. 3 years slipped by unnoticed. This time, because of the incident in the water. And as for breaking up with her, Olivia had assumed that if she just waited a while, the young master would eventually calm down and beg to reconcile. But more than half a month had passed, and Lucas still hadn't shown up. Only now did Olivia realize. This time, Lucas was serious. 3 years of tormenting each other. And in the end, she had gained nothing. Naturally, she wasn't willing to let go. Determined to find Lucas and settle things once and for all. But Lucas was always surrounded by bodyguards. And Olivia truly had no way to approach him. Now that she finally had the chance, she obviously wasn't going to let it slip away. "Lucas, how can you just say, break up, and it's over? Have I agreed to this? How can you be so heartless? You're breaking my heart. Olivia, am I the one who's being cruel? Think carefully. Who's really the heartless one here?" Olivia gritted her teeth. "Lucas, don't forget, I have all those photos. If you really want to break up, I'll release every single one of them." "You wretched woman." Lucas, enraged, grabbed Olivia's chin tightly, gritting his teeth as he spat out his curses. Shameless woman. But far from showing pain, Olivia laughed like a madwoman. "What's wrong? Who told you to try leaving me? I sacrificed 3 years of my youth for you. Do you think something like that comes cheap?" Provoked by her words, a vein popped on Lucas's forehead. Just then, he spotted a familiar figure, his eyes lighting up instantly. "Sophia, come here and help me." But before he even finished speaking, Sophia had already turned and walked away, her attitude firm and resolute. Sophia's coldness, combined with Olivia's relentless Ju-chan, pushed Lucas to the brink of fury. What's with her attitude? Doesn't she want to clean up this mess for me anymore? But in the end, this outcome was entirely of Lucas's own making. After graduation, Sophia began taking over her family's corporation. Every day, she buried herself in mountains of work, often pulling all-nighters until the early hours of the morning. Still, no matter how busy she was, she always made time to return to that rented apartment. Sophia had bought countless things to fill the room, restoring it to its former state. From clothes in the wardrobe, vases on the table, to personal care items in the bathroom. Everything was exactly what James had liked to use. In this cramped little space, she wove an illusion of James's eventual return, while simultaneously torturing and tormenting her own mind. 5 years passed. Sophia had earned everyone's trust and officially become the CEO of the corporation. After a grand inauguration ceremony, she declined all invitations to celebrate, choosing instead to drive alone back to the old rented apartment. As usual, she bought a lot of grilled meat, along with a few cans of beer. On the stairs, Sophia ran into the landlord. The older woman sighed deeply, looking at her and saying, "Sophia, it's been 5 years already. Why are you still so stubborn about this?" That sentence cut straight to the deepest, most hidden pain in Sophia's heart. Outwardly, she always appeared incredibly calm about James's departure. But deep inside, perhaps she had long since collapsed and shattered. As time went on, her family began to worry about her marriage prospects. They introduced Sophia to a few potential suitors. But no matter who the person was, or how talented they might be, she steadfastly refused every single one. She claimed she needed to focus on her career. Her family tried to persuade her but eventually gave up, letting her do as she pleased. No one understood why Sophia kept tormenting herself like this. Only she knew the truth. Her heart could no longer hold the shadow of anyone else. Sophia stood in front of the rented room's door, slowly pushing it open. In that moment, all the heavy burdens weighing on her mind seemed to dissolve. Everything inside the room remained exactly as it had been the day she left. Untouched, spotlessly clean. A flicker of loss crossed Sophia's eyes. But she quickly set the bag in her hand down, took out some clothes, and headed into the bathroom. After showering, she sat on the floor and opened a can of beer. It had been a long time since she last drank, so just one sip turned her face bright red. The relentless days of work had left her utterly exhausted. Before even finishing the first can, she collapsed onto the sofa, falling into a deep sleep. When she opened her eyes again, it was late at night. Her phone rang continuously. Sophia rubbed her burning eyes, and after a long while, finally picked it up. As soon as she unlocked the screen, dozens of missed calls and hundreds of unread messages flooded in, leaving her momentarily stunned. She scrolled through a few, noticing everyone had sent the same link, the same news, with a mix of suspicion and confusion. Sophia quickly opened the link. She lounged lazily on the sofa, seemingly uninterested. But when the page finished loading, the headline of the article struck her like a thunderclap, shattering her calm. Robot project lands on Mars. Led by Professor Alexander. Team members, James. James. The familiar name hit her hard, sending an involuntary jolt of panic through her. She carefully read through the article, then scrolled down to find a photo at the bottom. In the picture was a young man about 26 years old. His hair buzzed short, his skin much darker than before, but his smile and eyes were strikingly radiant. At that moment, Sophia finally realized James was no longer the man who had once squeezed into that dim, cramped rental apartment with her. He was no longer the boy who only had love and dreams of marrying her. He had grown up, so much more mature now. Like a sapling that had once been fragile, now grown strong, stretching its branches wide, amidst the vast beauty of nature. On James's side, after the project ended, all the staff joyfully returned home, arriving back in the city he'd been away from for so long. James suddenly felt a strange sense of reluctance. 5 years living in the experimental zone, he had grown accustomed to the dry heat. So adapting to the climate of Europe would take time. After getting off the plane, the group boarded a bus prepared by the university, planning to return to campus first. James chose a seat near the window and sat down. Soon after, Professor Alexander approached, patting him on the shoulder. "James, you've finally come back. What are your plans moving forward? James looked at the teacher who had changed his life. His eyes filled with gratitude. Professor Alexander, I've learned so much over these 5 years. And I've come to see my own shortcomings. So after this seminar, I want to return to school and continue my studies. Though James's words were humble, Professor Alexander greatly appreciated his dedication to learning. His eyes shone with admiration. After this project, there will certainly be many companies, many institutions offering you attractive opportunities to work with them. You have the strength to resist the temptations of fame and wealth. Continuing your studies, this makes me very happy. I played a small part in nurturing you. And I've seen your relentless efforts. But I hope you don't push yourself too hard. Family, friends, lovers, all are important parts of life. I think it's time you also focused on your real life. James knew the professor only wanted what was best for him. But he was no longer the naive young man, with eyes full of love like before. He had grown up. For the James of today, emotions were no longer the main theme of life. He wanted to chase something bigger. He wanted to explore the distant, mysterious universe, to build a vast career, with goals and ambitions worth pursuing. After checking into their rooms, James and his colleagues shared a dinner. Then he returned to his room early. He opened his suitcase, took out his toiletries, and was about to wash up when his phone suddenly rang. Relatives, college friends, teachers who had once cared for and guided him. They all sent congratulatory messages. After replying to each one, his fingers suddenly paused at a friend request from an unfamiliar number. Just a quick glance at the profile picture and name, and James already guessed who it was. Sophia, he murmured softly, the familiar name from the past slipping out. But his mood didn't change in the slightest. He remained calm, as if this wasn't his ex-girlfriend from 5 years ago, but just an unimportant stranger. James believed there was nothing left to say between them, so he didn't want to waste time. He rejected the friend request without hesitation, then casually set the phone aside and went into the bathroom. After finishing his shower, James completely relaxed, lying on the soft, large bed. It wasn't long before drowsiness overtook him, and he drifted into a dream. In the dream, he became a shooting star, walking through the vast Milky Way. Below him was the pull of gravity. Above him the boundless universe and the stars he yearned to pursue. Looking down at the earth he once called home, James suddenly felt a pang of loneliness. But he knew that, at this moment, he was truly free. No one knew who leaked the news. But when the project team members woke up, they found the hotel surrounded by reporters and fans. Not only did they have to attend a 9 a.m. press conference, but there was also a seminar scheduled for the afternoon. The schedule was packed, with no room for delay. But given the situation outside, forget about attending meetings. It seemed impossible even to leave the hotel. The entire group grew anxious. Just then, nearly 100 bodyguards suddenly appeared outside the hotel to maintain order, clearing a path for them. Once the car broke free from the crowd, the driver confirmed they could still arrive on time. Only then did the team members breathe a sigh of relief, chatting about who might have helped them. Only James remained silent. He glanced briefly at the logo on the bodyguards' badges outside the window, then lowered his gaze and pulled the curtain shut. After 2 major meetings, there was a reception held in the hotel's grand hall that evening. After sitting through 10 hours of events, James felt stiff and decided to walk around the banquet hall, exchanging greetings with a few people. Intending to leave early and rest, he rubbed his temples, but as soon as he stepped into the elevator, a faint, familiar scent suddenly hit him. As he looked up, he met a pair of familiar eyes. 5 years apart, and Sophia had matured significantly. Her entire presence radiated an air of experience beyond her years, coupled with a cold, hardened demeanor that made others instinctively want to keep their distance. But the moment she saw James, that aloofness vanished. Sophia's hands unconsciously clenched together, her eyes flashing with a whirlwind of complex emotions. She looked awkward and nervous, as if she had waited a long time for this moment. "James, it's been so long. Are you doing well?" James gave her a brief glance, then calmly took out his elevator card, swiped it, and replied in a detached tone. "Thank you for asking. I'm fine." The reunion Sophia had imagined countless times ended with just those few short words. Of course, she wasn't willing to let it go at that and tried to continue the conversation. "I didn't mean to bother you. I just wanted to apologize." But before she could finish, a ding sounded, and the elevator doors opened. James, who had no patience for her rambling, stepped inside without hesitation. Seeing his actions, Sophia's heart felt like it leapt out of her chest. Unconsciously, she reached out and grabbed his arm. James frowned and turned back to look at her, saying nothing. But that frown and the displeasure in his eyes had a devastating impact, leaving her stunned, her body drained of strength. She couldn't hold on to him anymore and had no choice but to let go. Ding! The elevator doors slowly closed. Watching his figure disappear right before her eyes, Sophia was overwhelmed with anguish. Her entire body went limp, and she slumped against the wall, sliding slowly to the floor. The smooth, polished floor reflected her pale, despairing face. Sophia sat motionless on the cold floor, like an abandoned, intricately carved sculpture. After what felt like an eternity, the banquet ended, and the sound of approaching footsteps jolted her out of her pain. She forced herself to stand up, glanced at the elevator one last time, and slowly walked out of the hotel. The evening wind was bitterly cold, sending shivers through her body, her teeth chattering. Her secretary had been waiting outside for a long time and quickly opened the car door when she appeared. "Miss Sophia, where would you like to go now?" After a long silence, Sophia finally spoke 3 words. "To the company." She wanted to bury herself in work, hoping to stop her mind from wandering. Sophia didn't feel sleepy until around 4 in the morning. The night was deep, and she felt too lazy to get up. So she simply wrapped herself in a blanket and dozed off right there in her office. But just a few hours after finally falling asleep, the sound of the door bursting open jolted her awake. Her secretary rushed in, panic-stricken. "Miss Sophia, something's happened." Those words hit her like a bucket of ice water, instantly shattering the haze in her mind. Frowning, she sat up and took the documents from the secretary's hands. With just a quick glance, her entire body froze. Female CEO of Corporation A spotted on late-night date with mysterious man. Attached was a secretly taken photo from the elevator last night. Since taking over the company, public attention on Sophia had grown exponentially. Half of it was due to the corporation, the other half because of her personal life. Sophia was a strong, decisive woman. The first thing she did after gaining control was to overhaul the company's foundational policies, not just focusing on real estate anymore, but boldly declaring their expansion into artificial intelligence. This fresh vision and courage earned admiration from young intellectuals, drawing in a massive fanbase. Beyond her career, netizens were particularly curious about her appearance and private life. So when that article surfaced, the gossip-hungry community quickly dug up the identity of the male lead in the photo. It was James, the once-in-a-century genius in aerospace engineering. "Oh my God, I was in the same class as them. Isn't James the chief designer of the Mars robot landing project? Aerospace scientist and an arrogant female CEO. Is this really happening in real life?" The news spread like wildfire. As Sophia watched it go viral, her right eyelid twitched uncontrollably. Her head spun, and an uneasy fear crept into her heart. Just as she was brainstorming how to handle the situation, her phone rang. It was her grandfather. "Sophia, are those rumors online true? That young man from the Aerospace Institute, is he really your boyfriend?" After a long silence, Sophia finally replied in a low voice. "Yes." On the other end, heavy breathing could be heard. A moment later, her grandfather sighed contentedly. "So, how far have you two progressed?" "How far?" thinking of James's cold demeanor the day before. Sophia felt as if an invisible hand were squeezing her heart. When no response came after a while, her grandfather likely understood and sighed again, offering advice. I know you've refused marriage because you still have someone in your heart. But from what I've seen in the news, he seems like a good person. If the two of you can be together, I'd truly be happy for you. However, unripe fruit will never taste sweet. That young man is shouldering a great mission. You should forget him and stop tormenting yourself. What's meant for you will eventually come to you. And what's not yours, don't force it. Sophia understood, but deep down, she couldn't let go. Because this relationship had never been as pure as ordinary love. 5 years had passed, yet every time she recalled the events of that year, even the smallest detail was enough to make her lose sleep from guilt. If pursuing Lucas had once been an obsession she couldn't shake, then her feelings for James cut even deeper. A bittersweet torment that lingered painfully in her heart. Due to the overwhelming impact of the rumors, the Aerospace Institute held a press conference, with James personally appearing to address the issue. Facing hundreds of reporters and flashing cameras, he remained calm. Thank you all for your attention. However, the relationship being discussed online ended a long time ago. Throughout the duration of the project, I remained single. In the near future, I will not consider any romantic relationships, and will dedicate myself fully to science. Please see me as a researcher, and continue to support the achievements brought forth by the Aerospace Institute. Thank you. Just those few sentences were enough to quell the raging storm of speculation online. James and the research team members breathed a collective sigh of relief. But Sophia felt only emptiness. Outside the building, thick fog blanketed the area. The faint glow of dawn seeped through the glass doors, but it brought no warmth to her. After everyone had left, her secretary brought her coffee and cautiously asked, "Miss Sophia, things have settled down now. Is there anything else we need to do?" In the quiet room, after a long pause, Sophia's voice finally broke the silence. "Find out who spread the rumor, then arrange for the lawyers." After 2 weeks of intense work, everything was nearly back to normal. James returned to the Aerospace Institute with minimal luggage, continuing his academic journey under Professor Alexander's guidance. Leaving behind the quiet research environment, he suddenly found himself back in the fast-paced university life, which made him a bit uneasy, especially when he saw students 2 or 3 years younger than him, holding degrees 2 levels higher, yet addressing him as senior. It was truly awkward. Seeing his discomfort, Professor Alexander burst into hearty laughter. "You've been with me for 5 years, and your expertise is nearly equivalent to a PhD. So this is completely natural. With your abilities, teaching junior students would be as easy as flipping your hand. Who doesn't know that you're my proudest student?" The students below chimed in with playful laughter. "Senior. Hey, senior." The atmosphere was lively, but the more James listened, the more indifferent he felt. It seemed he no longer cared about such trivial matters. Due to his unique status, the Aerospace Institute arranged a secure apartment for him to ensure his studies and daily life weren't disrupted. During the upcoming break, James planned to visit his parents and the people he hadn't seen in 5 years. The family of 3 finally had a day of reunion. They talked for a long time, including about matters related to James's personal life. James knew his parents must have seen the news online, and out of worry, they were asking him about it. Not wanting them to overthink things, he made his thoughts clear. "Mom, Dad, you both know my past relationship didn't end happily. In truth, it took me nearly 2 months to fully move on from that pain. During that time, I kept thinking about what I truly wanted in life. A happy family, or a successful career? I was confused for a very long time. But then, when I completed the first prototype, and heard the professor say that this small object in my hands would bring glory not just to me, but to all the employees at the Research Institute, and even to hundreds of millions of people out there. In that moment, I finally realized what I really wanted. Life is both very long and very short. 100 years will pass in the blink of an eye. But knowledge and science are the crystallization of countless centuries, of countless sacrifices made to light the torch of civilization for humanity. I thought to myself, if I could carve my name onto that torch, wouldn't that be far more interesting and meaningful than romance? Every person is born with their own mission. You gave me rare talent, so I'll keep working hard to make that talent shine, to illuminate the future for many others. Mom, Dad, do you understand me? James's parents, who had only finished high school, remained silent throughout. Their initial intention was simply to care for their son, worried that he might feel lonely. But after hearing his heartfelt confession, they understood that the dream he pursued was far greater and more brilliant than their small concerns. They might not fully grasp the specifics of his work, but they deeply respected his choice, the choice of a pure heart, dedicated entirely to science. All they hoped for was that 100 years from now, when his life reached its end, he would look back on his journey with happiness and fulfillment. For them, that was enough. After receiving their understanding, James completely let go of his lingering worries and devoted himself wholeheartedly to his new work. In addition to completing basic research, he joined the National Academy of Sciences under Professor Alexander's recommendation. This meant the responsibilities on his shoulders grew heavier, but he felt incredibly excited. Every time he received a new assignment, every time he calculated fresh data, every time he made a new discovery, he was as thrilled as a child. James practically ran between the lab and the research institute every day, even on weekends. Those around him often advised him not to overwork himself. He explained countless times that he was doing this voluntarily, but few believed him. The professor even grew irritated because James wouldn't listen. So one weekend, he dragged James out for some fresh air, forcing him to hike with the students. It was autumn, and the mountains blazed with fiery red maple leaves. The sky was clear, the sun warm, and the students joyfully breathed in the fresh air, laughing and chatting noisily. James slowly trailed behind, picking up a few beautiful maple leaves to take back as samples. After a while, he fell far behind the group ahead. Seeing no one around, he decided not to catch up, instead finding a spot to rest near a windy pavilion. The most important part of hiking is to open your mind and body. Even if you don't reach the summit, it doesn't matter. He consoled himself like that, then took out his phone to snap a few pictures of the blue sky. After editing them casually, he posted them to his personal page. Exercise is good for both body and mind. Looking at the post, he smiled faintly. Perhaps the autumn breeze was too soothing, because while resting, he dozed off. He didn't know how much time had passed when he opened his eyes again. On the group chat, he saw several junior female students posting photos of the majestic mountaintop. "Senior, why aren't you here yet? We're about to head down." "That's right. Professor Alexander said you're lazy and lack stamina. So you're being punished. You have to join all group activities from now on." James stretched, about to respond, when suddenly, a figure appeared before him. He looked up, frowning. Why, was Sophia here? Could it be that she had been secretly following his personal page? No, when he got back, he'd had to filter his friend list immediately. Sophia didn't know what he was thinking, and the reason she came here was to formally apologize to him. So, even though she saw a flicker of displeasure in his eyes, she swallowed her longing and forced herself to speak. "James, I've come to apologize." Of course, James had no intention of accepting this apology. It meant nothing to him. If he accepted it, it would be like admitting that he still held a grudge over what happened 5 years ago. But he had already completely let go of the past, and now he wanted nothing more to do with her. With that, he coldly replied, "I don't need your apology. And I don't want to see you again. Do you understand?" This statement hit harder than thousands of accusations, crushing Sophia's already guilt-ridden heart even further. By saying he didn't need her apology, it also meant she would never be able to make amends for her mistakes. Realizing this, her heart shattered. She could no longer hold back her emotions, her voice choking as she blurted out, "James, I was so stupid back then. I didn't realize how precious your sincerity was. I admit, everything was my fault. I shouldn't have used you. I shouldn't have lied to you." This tearful display of emotion only made James feel bored. He didn't interrupt her, but casually took a bottle of water from his bag, took a few sips, and said, "Are you done? If you're finished, listen carefully, Sophia. I didn't interrupt you because you talking is your right, it has nothing to do with me. I just want to remind you. Before I left, I returned every single gift you ever gave me. Did you notice?" Sophia nodded blankly, not understanding his point. Seeing her confused expression and nod, James continued, "Then shouldn't you also return everything I've given you? Of course, you can convert it into cash. I roughly calculated it to be over $40,000. Plus 5 years of interest, making it about $50,000. You can have your secretary transfer it to the Aerospace Institute's office. And I'll receive it." These words left Sophia stunned, though she wasn't sure if James meant to forgive her or give her another chance. She knew she couldn't miss this opportunity. 50,000? 50,000 isn't nearly enough. "James, if you want, even 50 million or 500 million, I can give you." True to form, the chairman was indeed generous. But James wasn't tempted in the slightest. He knew well that what falls from the sky isn't leaves but bird droppings. So he firmly stated, "I only want to take back what belongs to me. Nothing more, nothing less." With that, he walked past her and headed straight down the mountain. He didn't want anyone else to know about this encounter. The next day, Sophia personally delivered the full $50,000. It wasn't until 5 p.m., after work, that James finally took the time to collect it. As soon as he stepped in, he saw her waiting inside. Without sparing a glance at her intentions, he simply took the money and left. But Sophia stubbornly followed him, finally panting as she called out to him outside the lab, "James, I want to know why you only took 50,000? Do you know that if you just asked, whether it's 50 million or 500 million, I would compensate you?" "Compensation? Is that really what you call it?" At this, James burst into laughter. He turned around, carefully observing the young lady who was born with a silver spoon in her mouth. Then slowly said, "Sophia, don't you realize that the word compensation you just used as an insult to me? In our relationship, you deceived me. But I from start to finish was always serious. Every promise I made to you came from a sincere heart. In the end, I chose to walk away because I saw through your feelings. I don't need your compensation. What gives you the right to compensate me? The reason I'm taking back this 50,000 is because I come from an ordinary family. I know how hard it is to earn money. And I don't want my efforts to go to waste. 50,000 to you is just a piece of cake, a bottle of champagne. But to me, it's worth 1,000 times more. I'm simply reclaiming what belongs to me. So don't overthink it. We were completely over 5 years ago. Now, we're strangers. Please don't appear in front of me again. And don't disturb my life. That's all." With that, he decisively turned and walked back into the lab. Watching his figure grow distant, Sophia felt as though all the blood in her body had frozen. As dusk fell, darkness closed in from all sides, enveloping her. She felt trapped in an endless night, as if she would never wake up from this despair. Meanwhile, James donated the $50,000. In just a few days, the hard-earned money from his 3 jobs would reach the children in the mountains. It would turn into charitable lunches, school books, notebooks, or experimental equipment. No matter the form, it would ultimately serve its true purpose. After wrapping things up, James hummed a tune, returning to the lab with an unshakable sense of happiness. Senior Maria passed by, gently nudging his arm. "James, did you hear anything? There seems to be a new project coming up. I'd love to go eat sand in the desert. What about you?" James's heart raced, and he couldn't wait a second longer. He quickly pulled out his phone and messaged Professor Alexander. "Professor, is there a new project? Would I have the honor of joining the team? This time, it'll take 8 years. Are you sure?" At that moment, James's resolve was stronger than ever. "I'm absolutely sure.